One of the last three great ballparks left standing. It was renamed Briggs Stadium in 1938 when Walter Spike Briggs bought the Tigers and added a second deck to the stadium, creating its distinctive overlapping look. Bennett Field was a series of wooden bleachers surrounding a grassy diamond with a wooden wall on three sides behind home plate. It wasn't much of a park compared to today's Superdomes, but at the time, it was every kid's dream to spend a day close up to their summertime heroes, or maybe, just maybe someday, to play with the best of the best. Tyrus Raymond Cobb, Ty Cobb, the Georgia Peach, would join the Tigers in 1905 and remain with the club for 22 years. It was Cobb's popularity that forced Frank Navin to increase the capacity of the park to 23,000 seats in 1911 and introduce the first batter's background, a green wall in center field. 2 years later, the National Commission would mandate that every park had to construct a similar wall in center field. By the time this stadium opened, Cobb had become a legend in his own time. He signed with the A's in 1928 and retired the following season. He still holds several Major League career titles.
I'd like to get an idea of who you think is the greatest pitcher ever batted against.
Well, I can only name 4 or 5 of the greatest, and I can't help but say that Young was one of the greatest pitchers that ever lived, for the simple reason that he won in his career 508 ball games. Nowadays, when a man wins 20 games, he's supposed to have had a great season. Well, you can figure that out, that old Cy Young won 20 ball games for 25 years and 8 besides. Of course, we have other wonderful pitchers. We have Walter Johnson, Ed Walsh, Christy Matheson, Alexander, and many, many other.
On April 19th, 1927, the first voice of the Tigers leaned forward, nudged the WWJ radio microphone, surveyed this handsome ballpark, and christened Detroit baseball on the air. "Good afternoon, boys and girls," he said. "This is Ty Tyson speaking to you from Navin Field." Through 1942, Edwin Lloyd Tyson gripped an entire region, making fans of housewives and umpires of fans. Tyson was followed by Harry Heilman, Van Patrick, and of course, Mr. Harwell.
My final year in Baltimore was 1959, and we had a final series at Yankee Stadium. I got back from the ballpark on Saturday night, the night before the final game, and I got a phone call from George Kell. And George said, "Ernie, the Tigers are thinking about making an announcing change. Van Patrick is going to leave, and the Tigers are interested in you. Would you like to come?" And I said, "Well, George, I've got a good job here in Baltimore, and I don't know, but I certainly would like to talk with the Tigers." So they flew me out during the World Series of '59. We made a deal, and I went to Detroit, and it's certainly been a rewarding time for me with the great fans of Michigan. And right after I came to Detroit, Briggs Stadium changed its name to Tiger Stadium, and of course is still Tiger Stadium, and it's a very great traditional fabled old ballpark, and I've had a great time there.
In 1934, the Tigers would play in their first series since 1909 and lose to St. Louis 4-3, but they would return the following year to face the Cubs. The Tigers would take the series 4-2, despite the fact that Tiger slugger Hank Greenberg broke his wrist when hit by a pitched ball in Game 2. Movietone News catches father and son enjoying a day at the park. Dad, Henry Ford, talks with humorist Will Rogers as Edsel Ford checks out the lineup. The same year, Walter Spike Briggs would begin a systematic overhaul of the stadium that would eventually result in a fully enclosed park. 1912, this stadium has hosted 6 World Series. The last to date was in 1984. Detroit fans watched the Tigers take the San Diego Padres in 5 games, and who could forget Kurt Gibson's 2 homers in Game 5 to clinch the series.
I got there just as the bus was leaving for the ballpark. Now, if you're around baseball very long, you know the bus waits for no one. When it's 4 o'clock, you go to the ballpark. So I get there, get out of the cab, and Freddie Hutchinson, my manager, sees me, gets out of the bus and says, "Go check in and we'll wait for you." Now here I am, an 18-year-old skinny kid, pimples all over my face, had the only suit on that I owned in my life. I get on the bus. Now where am I going to sit? I don't know anybody. They know that I'm taking somebody's job away from them because they had to send somebody out when I joined the ball club. And that was the scariest moment I ever had in my life when I got on that bus. All those veteran ball players looking at me and saying, "Who in the world is this kid?" And finally, Ted Gray, who was the player rep, grabbed me by the arm and said, "Sit down, kid, I want to talk to you." And I was so happy he did, because I was ready to stand up all the way to the ballpark. First day I joined the ball club, I get dressed. They didn't have a uniform big enough for me. I had to use the Bat Boys uniform because I was only 145, 150 pounds and didn't have a uniform that size, so I wore the Bat Boys uniform with a number on it. I don't know what number it had at that time. And seventh inning, Freddie Hutchinson, who did not know my name, said, "Hey kid, come here. I want you to pinch hit." So I didn't have a bat. I didn't take any batting practice. I grabbed the bat and it was too big for me. But fortunately, the very first pitch off of Harry Bird, who was their star pitcher at that time, and he looked like a monster out there, 6'4", 230 pounds. I hit the very first pitch to center field, made an out. I was never so happy to make it out in my life because I wanted to get off the field. There was only about 4,000 people in the stands, but that was many more than I'm used to seeing as a high school player. So I learned very early that you had to be ready to go into the ball game at any time. Johnny Pesky took me under his wing. He was told to take care of me, and when I wasn't playing in the ball game, I had to sit next to Johnny Pesky because he would tell me, describe to me what was going on in the game, what was expected of me, what I should have done, or what that person should have done, and try to feed me how to play in the big leagues. Well, my first time in this park, I was living at a hotel downtown and could walk to the ballpark. It was only about 3 blocks away, 4 blocks away, so you walked to the ballpark, and you had to go through the guard, and he didn't know who I was. He saw this young kid that he didn't recognize, and I had to really persuade him that, hey, I'm the new player, I just signed a contract, and so on and so forth. So you go through the parking lot, and then you had to walk through a tunnel. I said, "Where am I going?" "I'm going through a tunnel." It was the concession place. That's where they made all the food, the hot dogs, the popcorn, and then I had to walk through the hallway, through the under the stadium, and I had to ask some of the people, where's the locker room? So finally I made my way to the locker room, and the guard standing there let me through and so on. Then I looked in the locker room. I said, God, it was a small little place. I was visualizing a big, huge locker room with all the facilities, but no, the old ballpark was just enough for about 25 players, manager and coach, and that was about it. So they took me to my locker, and they showed me where my locker was, way around in the corner, hidden away from all the veteran players, because they didn't want me associating with the veteran players, and the veterans didn't want me around. But I was happy. I got my uniform, and I had number 25. My first year with the ball club, they gave me number 25, and that was fine. But my favorite numbers was number 6, Stan Musial, boy, I idolized him, and number 9, Ted Williams. They were my favorites in high school, and I followed them. I looked in the paper to see which one got the most hits, and I said to myself, I would like to have one of their numbers one of these years. I'd like to wear number 6 or number 9. And the following year, Pat Mullen, the very fine veteran outfielder for the Tigers for many years, was given his release, and he wore number 6. And he came up to me, he says, as he was leaving, he says, "Al," he says, "I'd like you to wear number 6. Man, I was so happy because I wasn't about to ask for anything because I was just a rookie. And man, I wore number 6, and of course I wore it the rest of my career.
In the late 1980s, there was talk of tearing down Tiger Stadium. The Bengals fan club began a movement to stop the destruction of this baseball icon. They were successful in placing Tiger Stadium on the National Register of Historic Places.
Whoever wants to know the heart and mind of America had better learn baseball, the rules and realities of the game. Jacques Barzoon, Professor, Columbia University, 1954.
I had very good luck pitching in Detroit, but it was a great hitter's ballpark. And Hank Greenberg years ago, I remember, I think hit 58 home runs, came close to tying Babe Ruth's 60. But Detroit was a great ballpark to hit in, and it was dressing rooms were nothing, the dugouts were too small, but you just loved playing in that ballpark.